Hi and welcome to this teach on colour mixing with lemon yellow. I'm going to begin by using some glazing liquid. You can either use this, you could use matte medium, or you could use gloss medium. And basically what I've got is my sketchbook and the colours laid out on a piece of baking parchment. So what I'm doing first of all is laying down the bright yellow. And as you'll see, as I add the glazing liquid to it in small incremental amounts, it gradually increases in fact the transparency of the yellow. So I'm starting off by adding a small amount to the yellow, and as you'll see, it just makes it a little bit more transparent. Then adding a little bit more, and basically for the purpose of the exercise, I'm adding additional amounts of the glazing liquid in small incremental amounts. As you can see, I've skipped ahead here so that you can see what it looks like once we've got significant amounts of yellow, of glazing liquid mixed into the yellow. And it makes it a lot lighter and a lot clearer. So the next one I'm going to do is using white. Again, same process, adding small amounts of white to the lemon yellow to see what the effect is. And you'll see as I'm adding more and more white to the yellow, it gradually, obviously you'd expect, makes it a much lighter colour to the point where it's almost white actually with just a hint of lemon, which actually is I think it's a really pretty nice colour to use as a neutral. So adding small amounts each time as we move across the page. And this is a great exercise to do with all sorts of different colours. You can do it with red, you could do it with green, you could do it with blue, and just see what the effect is on the original colour that you start off with by adding incremental amounts of white, black and the complementary. So we started off, as I said, we started off with glazing liquid, now we've moved to white, and now we're going to move to black. Now with black, you only need a very tiny little bit to the yellow because it's very powerful. And in fact, even this, as you can see, that was a tiny, tiny little dot, but it's already made a huge difference to that yellow and made it go much, much darker. In fact, so much so that I'm adding a bit more yellow back in to line it up again so that you can really see what it looks like when you only add what would be, in fact, a tiny, tiny little bit of black. We'll get there in the end. So adding a little bit more black. So I find this is a really useful exercise to do to give me a sense of, I guess, the dimensions of a colour really, and what happens when you begin to add, black, white, and it's complementary to that colour, and the range of different colours you can mix from something. So in this case, where we're adding black to the lemon yellow, and you can see that we've jumped ahead a little bit with the film, it begins to make a really lovely, rich, deep, dark olive green, which is a great colour to know how to mix, in fact. Rather than having to use green and then alter it, actually by using the yellow with the black added to it, I think it gives you a much richer, deeper colour. And as you can see there, as you're adding yet more black, it's become a really lovely, rich dark. Okay, so we've got glazing liquid, white and black added to lemon yellow. And one more last go, I think, just to see the last deep dark olive that you can make. So dark it's almost black, but not quite. So now moving on to adding purple, which is a complementary of yellow, which I think when you add only a tiny little bit, creates a lovely softer version of lemon yellow. Lemon yellow, I think, can sometimes be a little bit too sharp when it's directly out the tube, but once you've added a tiny little bit of purple like this, it just adds a softer edge to it and makes it slightly more harmonious. There. So what we're going to do again, as we've done on the previous two, on the previous page in fact, is to add purple again in small incremental amounts into yellow to see what effect it has and what the range of colours are that we can mix. As you can see, looking at that row, as you slowly add yellow to it, what happens is you get a deep, dark, sort of rich, rusty, purpley brown. So we're at the point now where, in fact, we're probably way more purple than yellow. So what you're actually seeing is what happens to purple when you add a yellow to it. But I think it's still interesting to see the dimensions of what happens with the colour. So what I'm going to do now is mix up one of the shades of the colours that I mixed previously. In this case, taking one of those olive greens. So I've got yellow, I'm adding a little bit of black to it. And what I'm going to do now is add some white to that to see what range of neutrals I can produce. So I'm mixing probably one of the mid values of the olive green. There we go. That's probably quite dark actually, it's perhaps a little bit more than a mid value. And now I'm going to add some white to it. And then I'm going to basically do the same process, incrementally adding more white to that green to basically just get a sense of some of the neutrals that I can create. As you can see, added more white and more white, and now we're moving to the kind of much lighter end of the spectrum here with these colours. And it's making some really lovely, soft, neutral, pale olive greens. Very pretty. Going to do the same process now with the yellow mixed with the complementary. So taking that sort of mid-value, this is mid-value, I think, a sort of warm, browny, rusty colour. And now I'm adding some white to that to see what effect that has and what colours I can make from that. Again, adding small amounts of white, and as you can see, it creates some soft buff colours, really, sort of beigey, a light beigey brown. So now we're moving ahead to use the purple that's desaturated really using yellow, and adding white to that to really see what a range of lilac and sort of lighter neutral colours result from the process. So adding a first amount of white to that purple, and let's see what we've got. And we've got a sort of nice deep dark lilac. As you see, as we've added yet more white, it's slowly becoming lighter and lighter, as you'd expect, but also it's a nice light, sort of chalky, greyish lilac, actually, quite a light colour. Again, a really good neutral. And if you look at those neutrals along that right-hand side of the sketchbook, you can see that actually they would harmonise together really nicely. So the next part of the process is I often use these colours in an experimental way. They harmonise together really nicely because, of course, they're all from the same range of colours, yellow, purple, black and white, and they can often create really interesting colour studies. And that's what I'm going to do now. So this is part of my kind of general sketchbook practice. First off, I'm using a hard wax pastel to basically lay down a few lines, create some interesting marks on the page to respond to. Slightly wobbly table there. Also using, again here, this is a deep yellow wax pastel. And then what I'm going to do is create a small colour study using these colours in a very kind of playful, intuitive and expressive way, just to see really how the colours work together. And they should harmonise together really well, of course. So the next thing I'm using here, just talking through some of the materials, I think that is an oil pastel. No, it wasn't. It was a water-soluble wax pastel because I've been able to spray it with water, and as you can see, it's the colour starting to spread quite nicely. So the tool that I'm using there is actually a colour shaper. It's a sort of silicone wedge colour shaper, which is great actually for this purpose because you can use it with paint, as you can see I'm using there, or you can use it with water-based media to, once it's been sprayed, to kind of move the colour and push it around the page. I use my sketchbook quite a bit for exploratory work, and each year I for the last couple of years, I've been doing a sketchbook challenge in the summer. This last year, I wrote up the 30 days of the challenge, and it's available as a book from my website called Creative Connections, a 30-day sketchbook challenge. And in fact, there is a link to that in the show notes underneath. So if you're interested in seeing more about how I use my sketchbook, and in fact would be interested in maybe getting some prompts for yourself from that book, then you can order that from my website. It's full of daily prompts and sort of reflective questions and ideas, really. So you can either use it as a book that you can go through day by day, so start at the beginning, work through to the end, or dip into it at some point when you're interested in, or when you just want some inspiration and some ideas, and just pick a couple of days and work from those prompts as well. It works well in either way, really. So some of the tools I'm using here, as you can see, that sort of lightish lilac brush mark, using that kind of neutral colour, and now I'm using a brayer, a slightly squeaky brayer, in fact, with some of that dark olive to create some interesting marks up there on the left hand side of the page. I tend not to use a lot of brushes in my work. I do tend to use a lot of alternative style tools like this. I find I like to bring these sort of tools in because they make different marks, really, rather than just a simple and straightforward brush mark. So here I'm going to use the edge of the colour shaper just to create some straight lines, which is also good for, actually. One last mark, and then I think we're probably done. Practicing a little bit of restraint here and leaving some space. So I hope you enjoyed this short video. Thanks very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe to my channel if you did, and I'll catch you again next time.